Drew McIntyre has a new, yet old source of motivation. We have a new tag team that's not yet a tag team. And there's new versus Goldberg in your main event scene. It's a night of new and old. I'm Casualeann. Come with me. We have Kayla and Matt Camp, who start with a recap video of Nikki ASH beating Charlotte, which at the time had literally happened 2 minutes ago. Like, happened. But it was incredible. And I'm hoping that that move she won with that looked kind of like a swinging net breaker, I'm not sure, but I hope that that's going to be her new finisher. That crossbody, it ain't hitting on much. We know for certain that it's going to be Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg at SummerSlam. Drew overcomes soft chairs with a sword. The 24/7 title was retained again. We had David versus Goliath. And Mason T-Bar beat Monsoor and Mustafa Ali in Chicago. In Chicago, Mustafa Ali's hometown, they were defeated by Mace and T-Bar. After they beat them last week, they lost in Chicago. Monsoor got distracted by Mace or T-Bar, the black one. I get their stupid names mixed up. They cut to the pair, Monsoor and Mustafa Ali, two beautiful men doing beautiful things in the ring. But here they look so disparaged. The former KPZ asks, "What happened?" Monsoor tries to answer and Ali immediately cuts him off. Kevin Patrick notes that we saw a bit of kindness by Ali pulling Monsoor out of harm's way, taking the bullet from Mason T-Bar. And at that, Monsoor starts beaming. Ali says he doesn't know what he's talking about and runs off. Monsoor says he knows how to fix this and runs off with a huge smile on his face. They're so cute in this unlikely duo story. They're light and dark, yin and yang. Ali's got just enough heart left for Monsoor to get to him. I can't wait to see where this goes. There's Omos and Riddle. Omos won against Riddle, oddly enough alone, no AJ in sight, and Kayla and Camp gush about his dominance. This was fine. I've never been a, oh my goodness, he's so big, he's massive. That's never really been me. I'm not necessarily a fan who's into all of that, but I will say I don't like it when he roars like King Kong. And even Corey Graves said that Riddle would have had a better shot with Godzilla. Not good. There are implications with that. Leave that alone. Reggie is extremely athletic. I dig the remake of the 24/7 title. We found out during his title defense, his formal title defense, that 24/7 rules are suspended when the title's defended in the ring. But I'm not gonna lie, I like R-Truth to regain it sometimes. I miss him, especially being on Raw Talk. We don't see him anymore. But they go to Kevin Patrick and Reggie, and KPZ has completely messed over R-Truth. He tells Reggie he's looking out for everyone that might be after him right now, including R-Truth. And he slips that in. Other than that, they don't even acknowledge the termination of that running thing. It was almost a weekly occurrence on Raw Talk. Him promising to help him after he cost Truth the title. It's gone, no mention of it. He asks, how's everything going? And Reggie responds that, he sleeps a little on the plane, but he really doesn't do much outside of that because he's constantly having to look over his shoulder. Not much to the interview, to be honest. Kevin Patrick asks if he can teach him how to flip, and he's like, not a chance. I think we know that Reggie's strength is turning flips. He's like Ricochet, but slightly funnier and more likable. The sommelier thing was a little translucent, so it's nice to see him, kind of shed that and be like, this is who I actually am. I dig it, but it's still just kind of okay. They cut back to Camp and Braxton, and he pulls out a piece of genius. He tells Reggie to just watch out for the referees. If you don't see a referee, you're fine. I literally never thought about it like that. I felt like a complete idiot. There was a 2-on-1 handicap match, you all know. The Scottish Warrior versus Mahal Stooges, Veer and Shanky. Drew beat them down, beat the tar out of them. They're bringing the sword in more as a weapon. You got the reverse sword from the stone thing even in his entrance. There's the duel with the chair and the sword, and admittedly, he cuts an impressive figure with it. It looks great, but it also occupies at least one hand, which kind of slows down the action. I guess it's about posturing to kind of show Drew's increased brutality now. They go to an interview with Drew, and when asked about the fact that Mahal kind of ran away after all of this, Drew notes that he might not come back at all, but despite that, he'll be after him no matter where he goes. Ginger's seen Drew throw a guy off a bridge just because he added drinks to their bar tab. He lived. But he's all too aware of what the Scottish psychopath is capable of. He tells us that his sword's name is Angela, after his mother. And he gives us some backstory here. He talks about how tough she was, how she was told to abort her child and she wouldn't. Talks about her balance disorder, how she would use the walls of her apartment to kind of get around. It was so inspirational, but you could tell that he was in a real rush because he did not have a lot of time. I wonder what would fix him not having enough time. Let's recap. Lastly, he plugs his memoir, A Chosen Destiny. They end with a recap of the main event scene. Goldberg tries to intimidate Bobby Lashley. That doesn't work. MVP ran his mouth at Gage, Goldberg's son. Goldberg speared him and then took Gage to the back with him. This seemed a little stupid to me because they're going to be lurking about backstage, Lashley and MVP. Surely the best place for him, you know, in kayfabe or whatever, is to be at ringside, where it's unlikely that you're going to see MVP and Lashley all that much for the rest of the night. But okay. It's not like Lashley and MVP are gonna just hang around ringside for the next 3 hours. They got other stuff to do. But Gage is trying to break into the business, I'm sure. To be honest, the amount of recap, especially on Raw Talk, is really starting to bore me. Talking Smack is getting a little bit better with it. They're allowing more material to the backstage interviews, but Raw Talk hasn't quite gotten it yet. And I may have some bias in that regard because I do watch 3 hours of Raw and then hear 10 to 15 minutes of the 20 of Raw Talk, listening to stuff I've literally just seen. But I have to admit, the other 5 makes it worth it. My must-watch segment is Monsoor and Mustafa Ali. They are absolutely adorable as a duo. You just know that Mansoor's enthusiasm and good-natured spirit will start to rub off on Ali. Ali's craftiness and calculation are already starting to bear fruit in Monsoor. You can kind of just see the storyline progressing. You have an idea of where it may go, but you still want to see it. It's a story that's not, in terms of that sort of opposites attract thing, all that unlike the Arcade Bro thing, except that both of them are on TV right now. Monsoor would kind of be Riddle in that regard, and Ali would be Orton, the grizzled veteran, except that Monsoor is relatively new to the main roster crowd. But their evolution as a possible unit, with Ali not quite wanting to admit that they might have potential, it's gonna be super interesting to see. My rating again is 3 out of 5. It's just all right. In fact, I'm tempted to dock it a little bit more. There's so much recap. Oh my goodness. And the hosts don't have all that much chemistry. This is a critique of not only Raw Talk, but Talking Smack as well. The hosts aren't allowed to have kind of as much joshing, as much back and forth, as much chemistry as they had in the old format. And so the recap even if there was the same amount of it, is drier. Drew was great. He packed in a lot of content, but again, you could tell he was rushing. Monsoor and Ali were fantastic, and Reggie was kind of just all right. Wasn't a lot to it. So 3 out of 5. What do you all think? What do you think about Monsoor and Ali as a team? A possible team. What do you make of the WWE title match between Bobby Lashley and Goldberg, and how might his son factor in? What's the Drew gender feud about? Where is it headed? Let me know down in the comments. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. That's how the channel grows, so it helps when you do. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.